Hey, hey, hey. Happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch. Welcome aboard. Tonight is Wednesday, January 4th, 2023. This is live stream 870. Zoinks. It's your first time tuning in. Let me mention that it is super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news and taking a look at a tabletop game. This is a War Game Wednesday. Compliments of our friends over at GMT Games. And I am going to be diving into the highly anticipated Twilight Struggle Red Sea Conflict in the African Horn. Yes, this is a lighter standalone Twilight Struggle game that is supposed to play in like 60 to 90 minutes, but the box actually says 35 minutes. So we will find out. At least we'll get a better feel by taking a peek inside in just a few moments. But I should point out, if you are watching live and you're not overly familiar with this show, we do tackle the tabletop gaming news first. So it will be probably 35, maybe 40 minutes before we get into the unboxing and first look at Twilight Struggle Red Sea. So if you're watching live, kick back, relax, enjoy yourself. Be good to yourself. Come on, it's hump day. Halfway to the weekend, kick back. Now, should point out, if you are watching this 30 minutes or more after the stream has ended, there will be timestamps. They are located in the show notes, and you can skip through the tabletop gaming news if you'd like, although we've got cool news each and every show. So you should peek at it because there's a lot of cool stuff, probably very worthy of your attention. But regardless, if you're in a hurry and you want to get into that Twilight Struggle Red Sea, you'll be able to skip ahead. Now, depending on the device that you happen to be watching this on, those timestamps might be right there in the timeline of the video right in front of your eyes. So keep that in mind. Now, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you won't find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. This is a live stream, so that means there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you've got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I'll do my best to respond. Also want to mention you must be a subscriber to the channel to take part in chat, and you must be a subscriber for at least 48 hours before you can jump on in. Looks like we got a good chat rocking and rolling already. So first out the gate tonight, one of our chat moderators, yes, Mr. Eddie T is with us. Kathy Evans, Stray Kismet, Boris, Wancho Dumagol, Joseph Quam. Boy, the hits just keep coming, right? Kevin R. Smith, Coco B is with us as well. I think I have said hello to everyone. Oh, 245 Trioxin has jumped on in to the chat as well. So welcome aboard, everybody. Happy Hump Day. Let's jump on into the news because I've got a nice eclectic mix tonight. There's a new Role Player Tale board game, which is on the horizon from Thunderworks Games. Here's what I know about Goblin Vaults. In the dark corners of Coolback Prison, away from the prying eyes of the construct guards, inmates play a game of Goblin Vaults in secret. Goblin Vaults is a strategy card game for 1 to 5 players, featuring bidding, card placement, and scoring patterns. In the game, you wager cards to win loot from the central cell block, then stash that loot wisely in your vault, earning gears based on the position of cards within that vault. You can also gain gears from scoring objectives that change each game. With cunning and clever scheming, make your bid to be feared amongst your peers. You'll need wits and luck to play your cards right as you fill your vault and influence the warden in your favor. After 9 rounds, whoever has the most gears wins. Goblin Vaults is for 1 to 5 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around 45 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $24.95. It's slated to arrive in the first quarter. As far as I understand, and I could be wrong here, but as far as I understand, Thunderworks Games is going to start taking pre-orders on February 1st, but distributors are indicating that it hits stores on February 28th. So that's actually kind of a short pre-order period. So I don't know. I don't know which one of those is correct. I will probably go with the pre-orders begin February 1st from Thunderworks Games, I should say. And because a lot of times with the distributors, they're like wishful thinking on some of their release dates. I do want to mention, I have never played a game from Thunderworks. And honestly, when I think about it, I'm kind of surprised because they're known for role player, right? So this is actually a role player tale. So it's in that role player game world. There's, don't they do cartographers? Pretty sure they do cartographers as well. And that's kind of a fantasy, map making game. I don't know. I don't know why I've never actually checked out any of their games. I will see about maybe rectifying that. We'll see what we've got going on. Yes. So there's a little bit of talk about Open Game License 1.1 from Kevin. You know what? We'll chat a little bit about that when we finish up the news, because I have not taken a peek at it. So Coco B says it's casual War Game Wednesday. Get some comfy fatigues on. Yeah, I guess we would say that. It's kind of a casual game. If you're not overly familiar with Twilight Struggle, it really is not a complex game at all. It is very easy to get into. I'll mention that when we start taking a look at the game. Anyway, once again, this is Goblin Vaults for 1 to 5 players, and I'm pretty sure pre-orders will begin over on the Thunderworks Games website on February 1st. So it is a War Game Wednesday. How about a little wargaming news? Because coming soon from Nuts Publishing is Saigon 75. Here's the scoop. Saigon 75 is a fast-paced strategy game pitting the communist forces from North Vietnam and the Viet Cong against the liberal forces from South Vietnam. Both sides are fighting for control of the capital. At the end of the Vietnam War, after the U.S. troops have gone home, the North Vietnamese regime plans to take Saigon as quickly as possible against a well-prepared but corrupt South Vietnam. Oh, absolutely corrupt. Saigon 75 is a simple and fast-playing strategic game, and everything is contained within a few pages of rules and 1 hour of fun with pressure at every moment. Keep in mind, Nuts Publishing, they are a French company, so their localization on this press release is a little off. After activating some of your units with a die roll, depending on your turn, you'll play an event card from your hand. The activated units can then move and attack. Battles are resolved by special dice rolls, which determine enemy losses and the number of units that must retreat. The event cards are what gives the game its great replayability. The game is highly asymmetrical, with the North Vietnam player having more activations, more events to his advantage, better battle dice, and the ability to conduct assaults on a very wide front. Geez, I guess South Vietnamese have no chance, which honestly they didn't once the U.S. pulled out. While his opponent has air support as well as parachute and mechanized units. There's also a solo mode that allows you to play as the South Vietnam forces as they attempt to resist the onslaught of an automated enemy guided by specific cards. Saigon 75 is for 1 or 2 players, ages 14 and up, plays in about an hour, maybe up to 2 hours, and will carry an MSRP of $69 when it arrives in February. Very nice. This is unique. This is something different. This is not something that we have seen simulated time and time and time again. Yes, I'm looking at you, Battle of the Bulge. Yes. So very, very unique. It has a bit of a Euro game look to it as well, because you're using what looks like blocks and cubes as far as your forces, discs, and so forth. That sounds very interesting. And Nuts Publishing does come out with some pretty unique war games. Off the top of my head, I think Nuts Publishing is distributed in the US through Ares Games. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Let's dive on to some role-playing game news, because currently you can score huge savings with the New Perils for Classic Dungeon Crawls Humble Bundle from Goodman Games. Here's the deets on the deal. Cursed tombs, ancient gods, and glory. Venture back to the golden age of role-playing with this collection of adventures and resources for Dungeon Crawl Classics, the modern sword and sorcery tabletop role-playing game rooted in the games of yore. Explore the illustrated rulebook, then take your party into perilous places filled with traps, treacherous encounters, and treasure in the greatest thieves in Lankmar, the Chained Coffin, and more thrilling adventures. Plus, choose how much of your purchase will actually help support the Starlight Children's Foundation. You can jump aboard for a donation of just one single solitary dollar, or you can dive in with a donation of $18 or more and get all 29 PDFs, as well as a coupon for 20% off any purchase at the Goodman Games website. These savings will run through January 12th. This is an amazing bundle. It is just packed with goodies, and they are recent Goodman Games titles as well. So it looks like you get like the last 10 or so Dungeon Crawl Classics modules. You get 2 or 3 of the Lankmar adventures. Strangely enough, they have the Greatest Thieves in Lankmar box set, which is a PDF in this, but it is a box set, as part of this bundle, but they don't have the Lankmar box. I would have thought you'd gotten the Lankmar set instead of the box set for Greatest Thieves in Lankmar. I found that kind of unusual, but still, this is an absolute fantastic deal. And once again, if you've picked up Dungeon Crawl Classic bundles in the past, this is stuff that I have not seen before that's being offered in a bundle. Like I said, this is very recent releases as well. Strike Kismet says, sold! DCC FTW. Flaming Heron has joined us in chat, as has Testy Trekkie Welcome aboard. Boris says Wizards of the Coast at the new Electronic Arts with the discussion going on in chat. Little bit of a discussion about the new open game license, which I touched on yesterday, that people are panicking without knowing much about it. And of course, as Kevin points out today, there's a bit of a leak. So sweet. So Tessie Trekkie says they're hoping that their delivery service brings their copy of Twilight Struggle Red Sea before I open my box. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know, but you know me. I just, I babble on. Sometimes it's, 45 minutes before we actually get into an unboxing. So you never know. You just don't know. Moving right along. Bundle of Holding is currently offering a deal. Yes, more money-saving offers. This one is on Bandit Camp's Wicked Ones role-playing game. I've got the skinny on the savings. Hail Underlord. Embrace your inner monster with this new Wicked Ones bundle featuring Ben Nielsen's, you guessed it, Wicked Ones, the tabletop fantasy role-playing game from Bandit Camp about building dungeons, making nefarious plans, and slaying adventurers who seek to stop you. Wicked Ones uses the Forged in the Dark rules based on John Harper's Blades in the Dark to bring to your tabletop the experience of Dungeon Keeper, Dungeons, and similar computer games. Construct your dungeons rooms, recruit hench things, use monster science. She blinded me with monster science. To craft traps and alchemical concoctions, discover underground treasures, and stave off an onslaught of greedy and powerful, heroic invaders. Bah! Witless minions, attack! Wicked Ones publisher Bandit Camp has kindly given purchasers of this offer a set of drive-thru RPG and drive-thru cards discount URLs, which are part of this as well. Good through March 1st, 2023 for at-cost print-on-demand softcover copies of all the books and all the card decks in this offer. Yes, that's right. And for some strange reason, it's not showing me the price. If off the top of my head I remember correctly, it is $19.95. That's weird. I copied and pasted this, and it's like, where did the pricing go? It's like, what the hell's going on? $12.95. I apologize. I almost said $12.95, and I'm like, no, that just sounds too inexpensive. And with that, you get the Wicked Ones Deluxe Edition and its toolkit deck, plus the standalone expansion Undead Awakening, the campaign book War for the Overworld, which is actually based on the video game, and the Sandbox Map Pack. So lots of goodies. Plus, get that coupon for at-cost print-on-demand if you want physical copies of this. These savings will run through January 16th. 10% of your payment after gateway fees will be donated to the Diana Jones Award Emerging Designer Program. I will keep my mouth shut on that today. Gotta say, this is a pretty sweet deal. You're essentially getting just about everything that's out there for Wicked Ones. And I'm pretty sure that Undead Awakening came out very recently, like last couple of months. Because I know I shared a news piece about it. So, pretty cool deal. And somebody in chat, I'm not sure if they're hanging out with us tonight or not, I recall somebody in chat talking about how good Wicked Ones is, that it is a really fun role-playing game. Chen from Taiwan is with us. Welcome aboard. So, Tessie Trekkie's pointing out that their Fading Suns Kickstarter has been sitting at their post office since December. Yes, nice. Yeah, it's yeah, we won't get into shipping. Just a complete pain. Don't send anything to Canada, everybody. Just letting you know, do not send anything to Canada ever from anywhere. Even in Canada, don't ship anything. My final news piece, available in PDF, is the late beta rules for the Kame engine from FrostByte Books. Here's the latest on this science fiction role-playing game. Create better stories. Take D100 role-playing back to its core. Kame engine charts a new path for the classic rules, retooled from the ground up for more creative and flexible storytelling, but keeping the grounded approach that they are known for. At the core is a versatile conflict resolution system. Combine mysteries, social conflicts, puzzles, stunts, combat, and most other challenges in modern storytelling. You can play almost any story in any genre. Kame Engine is a freestanding game with close ties to M-Space, Oddsoot, and Mithras. And if you're familiar with any classic D100 game, you're going to feel right at home. Please note, Kame Engine is in late beta. It is highly playable, but is still open for changes. If you have any suggestions, they're more than welcome. Who is Kame Engine for? If you like D100 games, but prefer quick and simple rules without losing flexibility. You want to create tense scenes without always resorting to violence. Social conflicts, chases, research, and complex tasks play important parts in your scenarios. You feel limited by traditional RPGs' focus on combat, but prefer rules you are accustomed to. You enjoy D100 RPGs as they are, but sometimes need a bare-bones version to play with family and friends. You play solo role-playing games and need simple D100 mechanics to keep the story nimble. Maybe you prefer simple rules, but want more complexity in key areas like magic, superpowers, or starship design. I want all three. If any of these sound like they are up your alley, then Kame Engine is definitely worth checking out. The 46-page PDF of the Kame Engine is available right now at DriveThruRPG for $2.50. Pretty inexpensive there to check this out. Love the artwork. The artwork is stunning. It really is. I was like, wow, that is some seriously cool artwork. And the artwork kind of has, at least to me, it's got almost like a Tales from the Loop sort of vibe to it. I was like, kind of cool. So Tessie Trekkie says this Kame Engine artwork has a real, there you go. Same thing I just said. Yeah, there you go. Great minds think alike. Yes. So Flaming Heron says $2.50, good value considering you're getting 46 pages. I know. So even if it was like 30 pages, it's still only $2.50. I mean, yeah, come on. It's not that bad. All righty then. That's it for the news tonight. Of course, I was just talking about DriveThruRPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf websites. So if you are going to visit, say, DriveThruRPG or Dungeon Masters Guild, Storytellers Vault, what have you, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find the gaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always swing on over to paypal.me/thegaminggang and making a small donation. And of course, look at that. Look at that. Now you see what it was. Anyway, I was going to say, thankfully, there are quite a few people out there who utilize our banner ads or, I guess I should say, visit paypal.me. And it is truly, truly appreciated. It really, really is. Thank you kindly. So we are going to be jumping on into a first look at Twilight Struggle, Red Sea conflict in the Horn of Africa in just a few moments. But did want to tackle something, and then I want to kind of get a better feel for what's going on with this leak of the Open Game License 1.1. But I was just talking about paypal.me, and I've had people ask, why doesn't the Gaming Gang just have a Patreon? Why do you use paypal.me/the Gaming Gang? Just do a Patreon. Make it easy on yourself. People sign up. They get charged every month, so on and so forth. I know all about Patreon. I had a Patreon for about a year, not too long after they rolled out. So I did have a Patreon, and to be very honest with you, they took a pretty good chunk of what people donated. So not as much as the YouTube super chat. So I tell people all the time, please do not do a super chat ever. Don't. But they took a pretty good chunk, and then they raised their rates. And what they did is they actually tacked that on top of the patron's payment. So their payments went up. So I had people who were signed up for, like $2 a month, things like that. Well, then all of a sudden it's like $2.50 a month. And it's not as if Patreon went out of their way to inform the patrons that the rate was going up. So all these people bailed. All these people were like, I got a couple of emails from people pissed at me saying, how dare you, increase my donation. I said, I didn't do anything. That's them. I'm getting the same amount anyway, right? You're donating $2. Out of that $2, I was getting, I don't know, $1.40, something like that. So that's a pretty damn big chunk. Maybe I'm wrong, but I remember it was quite a bit. And people were pissed. And so was I. I was like, you know what? That is just so uncool to do that. And that was it. So I just shut down the Patreon, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. So that's why I do that. Few reasons on top of that why I don't have a Patreon account. Number one, I don't want to sit there and I don't expect people to donate every month. Times are tough for a lot of people. Money's tight for a lot of people. Yeah, I'm looking at me in the mirror over here. I don't have a mirror, but if I did, I would be looking at myself in that mirror. So funds are tight. I don't expect people to be donating on a monthly basis. I certainly do not. And I once again, I don't feel right about that. So what can I tell you? Flaming Heron said, be giving a PayPal.me before I'd ever super chat. Well, PayPal does take a small percentage, but that's because I have a business account with PayPal, and because I sell the PDFs of Knights and Magic through the website. So I have a business account. So they take a small percentage, but it's what you would pay if you had American Express. If you were a retailer and you took American Express, it's about what they would charge you. So, but yeah, it's way better than so. Straight Kismet says, I love your PayPal name. It's just the Gaming Gang. It's not anything exciting. So Tessie Trekkie says that Patreon change was also attached to every creator you supported per transaction. So they got whacked for the 12 or so people they supported for $1 a month. Yeah, it was ridiculous. So Wancho points out that they work with Patreon, and I get it. It's an option out there for people. It is. And I mean, people know what Patreon is. So, but as they point out, it's not the greatest option either. So Wancho says that after going through currency changes and different banks, he ends up with 60% of the donation. Yeah, that's not. So William Hellhaze is with us. Good to see you. Thanks for swinging on in. And asks if I'm wearing a jacket. No, this is a sweatshirt. It's a zip-up sweatshirt. Calvin Klein, actually. I got all fancy for tonight's show. Anyway, Kevin, point out what you happen to know about the leak for Wizards of the Coast Open Game License 1.1. And maybe we can get a little discussion going on about that for, just a few moments. But, yeah, I don't know. I talked about this last night. And yes, there were more videos that are popping up. Oh, the sky is falling. The sky is falling for Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, one Dungeons and Dragons, one D&D is going to be awful. This isn't a playtest. This is garbage. Well, I will kind of agree, because I took a peek at the playtest materials. I don't know. I have no idea. Kevin says they only read a couple of paragraphs. Oh, is it the OGL? The entire OGL is leaked? I'll have to go track that down to take a peek. But once again, I could get away with not covering Dungeons and Dragons. I would not lose any sleep over that. And I say it all the time. I get along great with Wizards of the Coast. I get along great with the PR company that they use for Dungeons and Dragons. I welcome the releases. I'm excited when new releases come out. It's just when I read them, I'm not as excited any longer, and my reviews reflect that. But I mean, I don't have that much traffic come in on, especially these days, on D&D stuff. Back in the day, I used to be able to pull in 15, 16,000 views on a new first look video for D&D. Now it's like maybe 4,000, 5,000. Usually combined nowadays with the first look and the review, maybe 7,000 views. I mean, that's not a ton. So William says Gary Gygax is spinning in his grave in Greyhawk. Tessie Trekkie says you own the new and original content you create. You agree to give us a non-exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, worldwide, sub-licensable, royalty-free license to use that content for any purpose. So Kevin mentions they're saying the new licenses or updates in OGL 1.0A is no longer a valid license. Kevin says he's not sure that they can actually do that. So Kevin points out, I love this. Gary's probably not spinning in his grave because he was kind of a copyright maximalist in his day. Yeah, TSR, well, actually, the stories I know about TSR going after creators, including Gygax, was after Gygax was gone. But yeah, TSR did not suffer anybody even taking a whiff of their copyrighted IPs. So Tessie Trekkie points that out. interesting. So if you cover, so essentially what they're saying is if you shoot content, well, this really would come into play with Critical Role. But then again, I think Matt Mercer's smart enough to just say, well, you know what? I think I'll just change systems. Right? Oh man, wouldn't it be like totally wild if Matt Mercer suddenly started doing Critical Role, but it's based on Pathfinder 2e? That would be pretty wild. And Paizo is much friendlier with their open game license. Although the strange thing is, aren't they built on the open game license from Wizards of the Coast? I thought they were. Because it's essentially, well, now it's kind of like D&D 3.85 or 3.9. So Kevin says, well, Gygax wasn't as bad as Lorraine Williams. Yeah, that's who I'm talking about. But he did go after copyright infringement. Yeah, TSR went after Gygax constantly. In fact, he created a game with GDW, if I remember correctly. And they were going to release it, and TSR shut it completely down. Never saw the light of day. So, and they kind of went after him all the time. So Kevin says also what Tessie Trekkie said. That language is interesting, giving the original open game license language said you gave everybody such a license, so Wizards of the Coast didn't need to mention itself. I don't know, kind of weird. Joseph says they sue regularly, TSR. Yeah, that was what it stood for. They sue regularly. Good one, Joseph. So as Kevin points out, yes, the Crit Role fan base will follow Mercer to any game. Yeah. And whatever game he would maybe decide to latch onto, that would be a huge boon. Remember, once again, people over the years have gotten this impression that I hate Critical Role. I don't. I have absolutely nothing against it. I've watched like 10 minutes of it. It's just not something that I've had an opportunity to really watch. That's it. That's all I'm saying. And I think people watch Critical Role all the time who are also players, which that's not always the case. A big part of that audience doesn't play. They just watch Critical Role. But I think newcomers to role-playing games who watch Critical Role have this unrealistic expectation of what their game is going to be like at their table. They're going to expect their game master to, they call it the Matt Mercer effect nonsense, stuff like that. But, I mean, it's not like I'm like, oh, damn you, Matt Mercer. No, not at all. Not at all. I wish them all the best. So, but man, what a boon that would be, right? If somebody could convince Matt Mercer to leave Dungeons and Dragons behind, that would be nice. That would be pretty nice. William says they played some index card RPG with some friends the other night and enjoyed it. Yeah, that's going to be one of my You Should Play videos coming up. It might even be the next one. I haven't decided yet. So anyway, Kevin says there's a lot of Critical Role content. He watches some of it in spurts. They're not sure they can ever catch up on all of it. See, I tend to like multitask. So when I have something on, I don't even have like a TV in my bedroom. I use an iPad. So I just have the iPad there and, throw like sports on or whatever, live stream stuff. And a lot of times I'm not really paying attention because I'm working on something else. It's just there as background. Just like I saw, I guess Netflix decided they weren't going to do a second season of 1899. And in case you're wondering, I didn't watch it. I watched like a half hour of it. And because, first of all, it defaulted to that awful dub. Oh, God, was that bad. And I was like, no. So, of course, it was subtitled. And there goes me working on anything else. So, because I don't, speak German and Swedish and all these other languages. I can barely speak English. You know that. Quantum Phase Dragon is with us in chat. Very, very cool. Welcome aboard. All right. So we're going to dive on into Twilight Struggle, Red Sea, conflict in the African Horn in just a couple of moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's time for an intermission. And there's time before the next show begins to take your family to our concession stand. You'll find fresh, hot popcorn, delicious candy bars, whatever your family desires. And you'll find the greatest treat of all, knee-high beverages. Yes, golden knee-high orange is the quality refreshment beverage that comes in quantity size. Everyone in the family will enjoy the true fruit flavor of knee-high orange. It's the beverage that meets all of your refreshment desires. Perfect for flavor, perfect for enjoyment. Treat yourself to the biggest treat of all, knee-high orange. And an extra attraction, this theater also serves quality famous Royal Crown Cola, the cola that's best by taste test. For real enjoyment, visit our concession stand and ask for Royal Crown.
Lowell, Superintendent of Police Leonard O. McPhail, and Property ID Cope Director Captain Thomas W. Kelleher discuss and formulate plans for the implementation of the Community Organization Alert Plan. Designed and instituted to prevent crimes through neighborhood self-help, the Police Community Relations Bureau is on the way to success. And here is how Cope works. You see a criminal offense in progress. Call the police at 40425. Identify yourself as a Cope member, and you don't have to give your name. Give the officer on duty all the details of the crime. Who, what, where, and when. Radio control will immediately dispatch mobile police units to the scene of the intended crime.
Fresh candies, the flavors you love. Assorted drinks, your favorite beverages. Hot coffee. Hot dogs the way you like them. Ice cream, smoothly delicious.
If you don't drink Wilkins coffee, you're not all there.
Oh, that's a lot of...
In fact, without Wilkins coffee, you're nowhere.
Come one, come all to our giant flea market, where you'll find bargains galore. Be a buyer, seller, or swapper, or just come for the fun of it. You'll find antiques, hard-to-find merchandise, things you've never dreamed of owning. Anyone with a garage or closet full of goodies can become a weekend moneymaker. For the time of your life, bring the whole family for all the fun at our giant flea market. Our refreshment stand will be open for your convenience.
Wontkins lives. I was like, for a second, the program wasn't changing scenes to bring me back. I'm like, what's going on here? Yes, we think Wontkins lives. He may have been ported to another dimension, but we're pretty sure he's alive. Then I have to laugh because it's the Lowell Police Department. Here at the Lowell Police Department, we want you to call the police if you see some illegal activity going on, because that's such a radical concept. Yes, I'm a member of the police club, and I'd like what? Flaming Aaron says, I disappeared like Wontkins. All righty. So, tonight, we are going to dive on in and take a first look at Twilight Struggle, Red Sea, conflict in the Horn of Africa from GMT Games. This standalone Twilight Struggle game is designed by Jason Matthews, with graphic design by Terry Leeds, is for 1 or 2 players, ages 14 and up, plays around 60 to 90 minutes, and carries an MSRP of $39. So let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got Twilight Struggle Red Sea. Do want to mention the fine folks over at GMT Games have been kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this coverage with you. I always like to point that out because, believe it or not, it's important you know that. So let's take a look at the back here. Now the trumpet summons us again. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, first inaugural, 1961. Twilight Struggle Red Sea Conflict in the Horn of Africa is a 2-player standalone card-driven game that builds on the award-winning Twilight Struggle. The year is 1974, and the Soviet Union and the United States have been locked in a life-or-death struggle across the globe. As so often happened during the Cold War, a relatively obscure region of the world suddenly took center stage. Emperor Haile Selassie I of Ethiopia, a bedrock U.S. ally in Africa, had grown old and increasingly dictatorial. In 1974, a group of young Marxist officers staged a coup and took hold of the reins of power. This revolutionary leadership sparked a chain of events that upset the regional balance of power and unleashed all the familiar elements of Cold War competition in the Horn of Africa. So as you can see, 1 or 2 players, complexity 3, and solitaire suitability a 9 out of 9, because there's actually a solo system included. See, now here it says 35 minutes to play, but I had also read, I believe it was on GMT's website at some point, that it was supposed to be 60 to 90 minutes. So let's get this shrink wrap off, and we will see what we've got. So some discussion of Night Stalker, Darren McGavin. Yes, Darren McGavin. So William says that Darren McGavin used to live by them in Manhattan. You know, it's funny. I remember the Night Stalker. I had seen it when it first was out, and then it went into like reruns years later, late at night on CBS. CBS had this late night thing where each weeknight they had something different. And if I remember right, I think Friday nights it was the Night Stalker. And I'll never forget the episode where the Cubs are in the World Series. and Carl Kolchak is listening to the World Series game as he's driving. I thought that was pretty wild. Right, so we got a rule book, a solo rule book. So let's take a look at the rule book first. Let's jump on in here. So we get a quick start rules for experienced Twilight Struggle players. I believe you can also take the cards that are in this game and put them in with your Twilight Struggle cards to actually make the mid-war and probably the late war a bit longer. So here we have a breakdown talking about the cards. It says the game uses 51 cards. Got our setup. So standard game of Twilight Struggle Red Sea has 2 turns. Each turn represents approximately 4 years, in which each player will make 7 normal card plays. Oh, okay. So we get a mid-war deck and we get a late-war deck. That's pretty wild. So I would take a guess, maybe 26 of one, 25 of each. I love Twilight Struggle. Twilight Struggle is one of my top 3 games. And I have taught Twilight Struggle to people who have never played board games. And they have enjoyed the hell out of it. I taught my mom how to play Twilight Struggle. She wasn't very good at it. So, but she was game enough to play it. And yeah, did all right. But usually I'll have an annual Twilight Struggle challenge with my best friend, Elliot Miller. We usually do that at Gen Con. I bring it with me. All right, so we have the space race in this too. Okay. That's cool. So talking about events, we have some events that are permanent events. War events, we have one war event. We've got our DEF CON track. So far, pretty much everything we're used to seeing in Twilight Struggle. We've got the required military operations, the Romanian autonomy. Okay. Scoring and victory. So we've got our Africa scoring card. So wouldn't that take place, I'm taking a guess, at the end of the 2 turns? Unlike in Twilight Struggle, you're never exactly sure when the scoring is going to take place unless you've got the scoring card in your hand for that region. So we got our victory point track. So in this case, we're looking at 10 victory points, unlike 20 in Twilight Struggle. We actually have tournament play rules. These rules are optional and not required for friendly play. And then it looks like we've got a list of the different cards. So we have more late war cards than we do mid-war, and then we have some neutral mid-war cards as well. So that is the rule book, all of 16 pages. Then we got our solo rules, which actually feel like they're longer. We'll just take a peek here. Oh, so we get an example of play. So this is almost like a playbook. And I say it all the time. When we're looking at GMT Games and they have a playbook, I always read the playbook first. I read the playbook and then I read the rule book. Because a lot of times they have a nice long example of play that gives you a feel for what's going on in the game and the various different mechanics of the game before you dive on into what's normally a relatively dryly presented rule book. So here we've got our example of play for a solo game. We get our card backgrounds. I always love this. I always love this in historical card-driven games where each of the cards, we get a breakdown telling us, okay, so what does this actually represent? What event takes place here? So every single card is getting a breakdown, although we don't actually have images of every card. That's kind of wild. So we get some designer notes, and then we get our solo designer notes. So I think Jason Carr, it looks like, may have been the designer of the solitaire system that's being used for Red Sea. So we've got some player aids. Let me grab a quick sip here. Tessie Trekkie says, it looks like, excuse me, looks like the integration into the base game is that USSR players take turns choosing the extra cards to go into the deck. So did your box arrive, Tessie Trekkie? Are you like opening it up like alongside the video? I'm just curious. So I guess it's supposed to be out today. So Tessie Trekkie says it's out for delivery. No, Tessie Trekkie says they did not get it yet. All right, so let's take a look. So we got a play summary here. And then we've got the steps. So improve DEF CON, deal cards, your headline phase, action rounds, military operations. You reveal your held card. Now that's different. And of course, scoring cards can't be held. Flip Romanian. I almost said Roman. Flip Romanian autonomy card. Advanced turn marker. Final scoring at the end of the second turn. So we have automatic victory. One player hits 10 victory points. The Africa scoring card is played, and the player controls more countries in Africa and controls both flashpoint countries. And of course, if nuclear war takes place during your opponent's turn, you win. During their phase, I should say. Cool. So we get a couple of these. Then we have U.S. playable events. So this is a table. I wonder, is this for solitaire? Here's the USSR playable events. So it looks like these are just kind of bullet points. Oh, telling you if you can play it in the headline phase or not. Play it as an event. That's kind of cool. I'd like to see that with Twilight Struggle. That would work very nicely when you're teaching somebody the game. So we've got the USSR space selection table. These are the solo, this is like the solo bot for the USSR. And then we have, this is a solo bot if you want to play the Soviets. Cool, so you can play either side. Solitaire. I must admit, I am usually forced to play as the Soviets. I think I've gotten to play as the US like 3 times, most, like 3 times. So, and no joke, I have played Twilight Struggle well over 100 times. So, and if you throw in like the digital edition, oh my gosh, we're probably looking at 300. So we've got just a single punch board with counters. So these are influence. These are events, victory points, DEFCON status, DEFCON marking the countries that you can't do a coup attempt, regions, I guess I should say. Tessie Trekkie says, if they ever get to Gen Con, they'll let me play the USA. It's all right. I don't really mind it. I would probably not. Well, I mean, essentially, it would be if I play in the U.S., just got to make sure that you can take those early knockout blows, shake them off from the Soviets, because once the mid-war comes around, everything starts shifting towards the U.S. And late war, I think I've only won maybe a handful of times getting to the late war as the Soviets. Normally, if you get to the late war, the U.S. is going to come out on top just because of the events. All right, so here's our kind of small region here. This is the Horn of Africa. Our action round track, our turn record. Looks like we got an optional turn. Whoops, I guess maybe should give you a better look. Maybe I should actually put that on camera as I'm talking about it. So William says they missed this boat. They've never heard of this game. Now, I don't know if it's still the case as far as Board Game Geek, but Twilight Struggle, for as long as I can recall, has always been like in the top 3 games on Board Game Geek. I don't know if that's still the case. It's got to still be top 10. And as I mentioned, it is one of my top 3 board games. I love Twilight Struggle. That's why I was so excited to get this. I was like, oh my gosh, sweet. GMT Games isn't mad at me for some reason. Nice. Because remember, I hadn't seen Well, we just looked at Charioteer on Monday's show, and this was part of like the next wave of games after Charioteer. So when I hadn't seen Charioteer, and I think it's Skies Over Britain was part of that, I was like, wow, maybe I did something. GMT's mad at me. What could I have done? Anyway, so here we have where we put our influence to control the various different countries. Here's our victory point track, our required military operations, because you are required per turn to make so many military operations, otherwise you lose victory points. Then we've got our coup attempts. Oh, this is very cool. So it's giving us kind of just a breakdown on how to do these things, how to do a coup attempt, how to do a realignment roll, how to place your influence. That's nice. I like that. Making it so much easier to teach those concepts because they're right there on the board, and each side will get that. And of course, this is the mounted board. So we get a red. Oh, wow. Look at this. I actually have a set of US and Soviet dice I bought one year at Gen Con, but look at this. Nice. And these are cut dice too. Sweet. And the one thing that kind of irked me a little bit about the dice I bought was the US star was on the 6 for the USA die, and the hammer and sickle was the 1 on the Soviet die. I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. So on these, I just took a peek. These are both 6s. So if you get your symbol, that is a 6. All right, so we've got our box here. Cool insert, like we always see in just about every single GMT game release. Let's take a look at the deck. So I always mention sleeve your cards. And it doesn't matter how nice the cardstock is for your cards. I always recommend to sleeve them. Just like when we were looking at Charioteer the other night, those cards were nice and thick. I would still sleeve them, even though there's about 150 cards in there. I would still sleeve them. All right, I'm not going to look at each and every card, but we will take a peek at a few of these. And if you're not overly familiar with Twilight Struggle, it is card driven. So your cards that you play are what are going to provide you with either actions or events. So here we've got the Peace Corps. This is a US event because it's got a white star. And it takes place in the mid-war, so that's part of the mid-war deck. So if I wanted to play it for the operations points, that would be worth 2. If I wanted to play it for the event, then I do what the event says takes place. Now, one of the interesting aspects of Twilight Struggle is if, say, I was the USSR and I want to play this card, sometimes you're stuck having to play event cards from your opponent because each turn you have to play a card unless you burn one card to the space race, which is one way that you can get rid of, big events that for your opponent without actually having it take place. But what ends up happening is they get their event. So if I'm the Soviet player and I want to use these 2 points for operations, I get to decide when is that event going to take place. Is it going to take place before I spend these points or after I spend these points? And sometimes if you have the event take place beforehand, you can kind of mitigate the damage a little bit with the operations points. And you use those operation points to add influence into countries. You can attempt to overthrow governments with a coup, and you can also attempt to realign influence within a country. So coup attempts actually will increase. In fact, it'll bump up your DEFCON, so you can't do too many. But that's one of the strategies of the Soviets, is right off the bat, early in your turn, because you go first, go after the coup attempts, because it'll push up the DEFCON level so that it leaves the U.S. with their hands tied as far as taking military operations. So, actually, what did the Peace Corps card do? It says, remove one USSR influence from a non-USSR controlled country, add one U.S. influence to two U.S. controlled countries. Now, some of these cards will have an asterisk. So here, the victorious leader. This is a U.S. event from the mid-war. Add 4 U.S. influence in countries adjacent to countries that were USSR controlled at the start of the round, adding no more than 2 influence per country. So you could either take the operations points or the event. Now, if the event takes place, then this card is removed from play. Now, that's another strategy note, is that as these big events, these powerful events take place, they normally will have 3 or 4 operations points, which is good. It's a lot. When this card comes out of play, well, then those operation points are no longer available. Now, the reason why that's important in Twilight Struggle is you might actually go through some of these cards multiple times, especially early war. Probably not going to take place as much in Twilight Struggle Red Sea. Let's see, late war, the Carter Doctrine. The U.S. may designate one roll this turn to be either a 1 or a 6 prior to rolling the die. And that's worth 4. And it is only usable once. Let's see what else we've got. I think famine plays a part in this as well. Afghanistan invaded. We are the world. Oh, there we go. Talking about famine. If there are any countries with famine markers, +1 victory point and add 2 influence to a country with a famine marker and remove the famine marker. Cool. All right. So let's get in some Soviet events. T-62s and Kalashnikovs. All operations cards played by the USSR for the remainder of this turn receive +1 to their operations value to a maximum of 3 operations value per card. That's pretty nice. And it's an event that can take place more than once. So Kevin says they think P500 is the company's pre-order program. Yes. That is how GMT works. They'll roll out new additions to the P500 list. And I don't know if it's still more than 500, because it used to be, even though they call it the P500, they really needed to have about 700 pre-orders before they would actually go to print with it. But I think it's closer to 500 now. So we got our scoring cards. So mid-war and late war. So we got the Middle East and Africa. And interestingly enough, I know there are people out there who do not like this fact, but the Middle East is actually part of Africa. There are people in the Middle East who don't believe that they're African, but they are, because that is the continent that they live on. So, very nice. Very cool. I am definitely looking forward to this. This is coming with over to my best friend Elliot's house I'm pretty sure we're playing this weekend, and this is going to hit the table. I'm going to go through the rules to see what like minor adjustments have to be made, or if this is just Twilight Struggle, but only 2 turns. So Kevin says some of them. Middle East straddles Africa and Asia. Most of it. Most of it's Africa. All right, so there you go. Those are all the cards there. But it is true. A lot of people who live on the African continent do not like to be considered Africans. That's why they always refer to like sub-Saharan Africa. So Iraq is Asia. Yeah, that's true. Iraq is just like I tell people all the time. People think that Iraq is in Arabian country, that they're Arabs. And it's like, no, they're Persians. They're not Arabs. It's like, oh, no. They're Arabs. It's like, no, they're Persians. That's why many other countries in the Middle East aren't all that thrilled with them. So, yeah, so here we go. So now we've got three countries that are not, I don't know. Anyway. I should say not African. Regardless of what's African and what's Asian, this is Twilight Struggle, Red Sea Conflict in the Horn of Africa from GMT Games. Of course, I'm going to have a review of this in the very near future. Once again, this is for 2 players or 1 player. There is solitaire built in. It's for ages 14 and up. According to the box, it says plays in around 35 minutes. I'm going to guess probably around an hour. And it carries an MSRP of $39, which sounds like a rocking deal to me. If you have never played Twilight Struggle, I can't recommend the core Twilight Struggle strongly enough. It is fantastic. It is an excellent game. But also want to mention, as I do with all GMT games, if this is something that you're kind of interested in checking out, by all means, grab it now, because GMT does not put together big print runs. So these tend to sell out relatively quickly, and you don't want to be sitting there waiting 2 years for another print run or going to the secondary market and having to pay top dollar for a game either. So very, very interesting. Can't wait to check it out. All right. So that's it for this time out. Of course, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And of course, if you do subscribe, ding that bell. That's not only going to let you know when the Dispatch streams live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. Central. It'll also inform you when my other videos get uploaded, such as this Sunday's first episode of Classic Cthulhu Case Files. Yes. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, don't forget, check out thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you're not going to find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it happens to be. If you were watching live, thank you very much for watching. If you were watching live and took part in chat, big tip of the cap, because you're not only keeping each other company, but you keep me company too. Otherwise, I'd just be babbling on incoherently most of the time into the camera and the mic. So thank you for that. I'd feel like a total doofus too. Yeah, sometimes when I'm shooting videos down here, the standalone videos, I feel kind of odd talking to the camera. Anyway, it's this thing. Of course, I know a lot of you out there don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Really do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in to check out any of the videos here on the Gaming Gang channel. Next Monday, don't forget, I am going to, as I drop the book, brilliant. Reason why is, now you remember I did a news piece about Charge of the Three Kings? Well, it showed up today. This is a heavy box. This has a lot of heft to it. And I just happen to have it sitting on top of the Imperial Zoo for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, which is what I'll be taking a look at on Monday's show. And of course, as I tried to move this pretty damn heavy box, it knocked over the book. Alrighty then. So everybody enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend too. Of course, I'll be back on Monday. And here's hoping each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.
Oh, hey, you're still here. That's okay. You don't have to leave just yet. In fact, why don't you subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel right here, or take a peek at the latest live stream, or even find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks again for watching.